Why am I not getting any chat messages? Oh, there they go, finally. No, it's sitting there as blank. There wasn't anything. Okay, that's better.
What was blank, Chris?
I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself. When you get over 60, you do that?
That's good to know.
This is a picture of your future. You know that, right?
Yep, I'm looking forward to it.
Over 60 or under 10.
I already talked to myself, so.
You'll do it more.
But then you'll forget that you're talking to yourself. That's the best part.
And what you say to yourself makes no sense.
Oh, geez, we might be live. We don't want to betray our great omnipotence over this environment. Omniscience, excuse me.
Hi, back row. How are you doing? Are you all there?
We're here. Yes.
We're all here because we're not all there.
You guys are abnormally quiet today.
Yeah, well,
I was a little worried.
Well, we were trying to figure out what to say about this marine snow on the Argus view.
Oh, it's we're going with a different camera today, just to mix things up a little bit.
Nice.
So are we gonna get an image from that camera, or is it gonna be pretty?
Oh yeah,
That's
it. That's the image. No, I mean there's nothing. Yeah, you'll see Herc.
We will. Okay.
Yeah. It'll look.
It's gonna look that quality though. Unfortunately.
It'll look like this.
Ah, got you.
Yeah.
Now I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we gonna see who's out there.
Yes, so good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for following us on nautiluslive.org. We are starting our 12th dive, right? Number 12 on Tamana Seamount, southeast in Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument. This dive is expected to be 16 hours.
Excuse me, Aaron, can you zoom out a high pack and just show me where we are? I just want to confirm our position.
Yep, no problem. 1 second. Is that the perspective you're looking for?
Yeah. Just checking it with the map. For some reason, this high-pack display looks different than...
Compared to the map in the dive plan?
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
I can't really... let me see it under the light here.
I think it's just... Oh yeah, it looks like in the dive plan that you started here.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about.
Or are we just seeing things?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, I mean, I could check the coordinates on the start. You feel confident with those coordinates?
I'm not sure. Maybe because I usually don't land us right on a peak there. That's the thing I'm a little worried about. Let's confirm the coordinates.
The start 82464, 23836, 114. They look correct.
6114. Okay.
And I can turn on, like, we can go to the background map and see if that makes any sense. It's quite late right now. Let me bring up high-pack planning.
Well, this will work. We just got to start with a bit of a downhill and go into that little trough, I guess.
Yeah, it's really minor.
Close. Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
minor.
really worried.
Okay, yeah, that'll do. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. I'm sorry to interrupt there.
No,
Oh,
you
no,
didn't
no
interrupt
worries.
anything. We're just chit-chat.
Okay.
Okay, so how long is this? Is our
Our descent's
dive
going to be
down?
about 58 minutes till we get to bottom.
Okay, 58 minutes to talk about anything you want.
Talk about why we're doing what we're doing. How about that?
Yeah, well, why are we doing?
That's a really good question. I think I'm
Well,
going to take a crack at answering it.
yeah, my simple answer is to learn more about the ocean so we understand how to protect it better. That's my
Exactly.
simple answer.
I like starting with
So,
Chris's exclamation of this is the ocean world. It's 70% ocean. If we don't know enough about the ocean, we don't really know our planet. And that's true out here in the Central Pacific, maybe as much as anywhere else, if not more so. And you know, we have a huge marine national monument that we're operating in Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument and World Heritage Site. And some of these seamounts, they've certainly never been, nobody's ever dove on them before or explored them or seen them with eyes, but a lot of them haven't even been mapped. So that's some of the things that we've been doing out here, is using our really cool multi-beam tools on this amazing research vessel, the EV Nautilus. And we mapped quite a bit of these southern Wentworth seamount chain. And we have been diving on them, on these seamounts, trying to target some high density sponge and coral communities on these ridges from these seamounts and guyot that we've been exploring. And we have found several high density coral and sponge communities. And why that's important is because we need to know what's out here in order to best protect and manage this area, in order to monitor it over time. Our oceans are changing, our Earth is changing, and we need to know what we have out here. And that also provides additional reasons for protecting this area from any future impacts. Right now it's protected, but that protection, you know, may not be there in the future. Unless we, you know, have really good reasons as to why to protect it. And some of the potential threats out there certainly are deep sea mining for these high value cobalt manganese crustal areas and nodule areas. Also fishing. I mean, so many of the near shore fisheries are depleted around the world, and our population certainly keeps increasing. I mean, it's doubled in just my lifetime. Fish are a primary source of protein for many people around the world. So right now fishing it's protected from fishing, but you know, like I said, that may not be there for forever. So we'd like to know what's down here before any of these other threats come up, and to enhance protections for this area. And that's what we've been doing. And also the amazing geologic story of the Earth, because even though we've come to quite understand quite a bit about the Earth and its tectonic plates and the ages of different things, we still don't know a lot. And we don't know how old these seamounts are, or you know, how fast the Pacific plate is moving and those kinds of things. So we're going to date some of these seamounts and the rocks on them to find out that information. And really cool, potentially really cool, is this seamount chain part of a larger seamount chain that extends all the way south into the Line Islands and all the way north into the Wentworth chain on the north, and then extends all the way up to an area we call the Hess Rise, which is northwest of the Hawaiian archipelago, which may represent the longest hotspot generated seamount chain in the world.
Well, they think it might even go beyond Hess Rise. Hess Rise might represent sort of a mid-Cretaceous turn in the plate. And that would be absolutely unprecedented if they could actually find out how the plate was moving beyond, say, for example, the Emperor seamounts, the last one that's being subducted right now in the Aleutian Trench, which is about 70 to 80 million years old. But if they're right, then we have an even longer record potentially of the direction of the plate.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's pretty wild. Yep.
That is really wild.
So we don't know, of course, and we've had plenty of great hypotheses dashed by ugly facts over the years. Not ugly facts, but unfortunately solid facts.
Yeah, the truth is sometimes brutal.
Yes, exactly. But that's the point. You come up here and you want to have hypotheses and you want to try to be able to test these hypotheses because you're thinking about it all the time. What is going on? What's happening? What happened when? And then you come up with an idea and then you want to test it.
Yeah.
So even though we're looking around here and collecting rocks and looking at creatures and everything else, it's hypothesis driven.
Yep. That's how science moves. And the one definitely from my perspective, one super cool aspect of the new age of exploration that EV Nautilus and Ocean Exploration Trust and NOAA Exploration and many other entities are part of, when these rocks come back, which I think we're up to like 450 pounds of hard basalt rocks, they will be available for scientists around the world. So not just the scientists on this expedition will use those rocks for dating purposes, but they will be available for other scientists to do other experiments on, or to do their own correction, do their own dating on it and see if the results that ultimately Andrea Balbas, I forget her last name. Balbas, yes, comes up with is correct, or maybe, the protocols or the techniques used for dating have changed over the years. Now I think they're using an argon, isotope sub-argon kind of dating analysis. In the future, there may be other ones that may provide more accurate information. But anyway, these specimens will be available for multiple scientists as well as the collections. In years past, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago when scientific expedition went out, they didn't always share their samples with everybody. So the new age of exploration kind of changes that paradigm and provides broader access to these materials. And that's kind of one of the things we're doing out here. So these rocks will also be used for a completely different purpose, or actually a completely different set of rocks, for looking at these cobalt and manganese crusts and how do microbes, how are they involved in that process of forming those very thin polymetallic crusts over millions of years? They're definitely there. The microbes are on these rocks. They're part of this process, but do they contribute to it? Do they hinder it? How are they involved? And what is their, what kind of microbes are available in these processes? And that is a very, very important question, considering that there's some pretty large-scale deep sea mining proposals in place. Most of the cobalt and a lot of these other, rare earth elements are in the deep sea, and we keep using them on land, and maybe 100 times more in the oceans, or we don't even know. But if we start mining in these areas, what kind of communities are we affecting, and how will that affect the ecological services going on and nutrient cycling in the deep sea? So Dr. Beth Orcutt's looking at that, and she'll be looking at these microbes on these communities. I think one thing we've seen from the rocks that she has collected is that she was a little surprised at the thickness of the cobalt manganese crusts that have come up on these rocks. She thought it would be a little bit thicker given the supposed age of these seamounts. And preliminary observation, certainly this needs a lot more analysis, but preliminary observation was kind of curious as to why it's not thicker than it is, given these seamounts are 70 to 100 million years old. So those are some of the questions that we're looking at and we'll be looking at in the future, including some really cool organisms that have been collected.
So regarding the rocks collection and why we're doing the geology, as I mentioned, we do have some hypotheses. Right now, the hypothesis is that these seamounts are part of a much longer chain, and we can tell that by actually analyzing the rocks themselves to test that and see if they match up with other members of that chain that have been previously sampled, both north and south. regarding to the communities, which you hope to find, these amazing high-density communities, we have some hypotheses regarding that. We think that these rift zone ridges are quite important, but we also think the orientation of the rift is quite important. And I'm going to throw this out right now, and I'm probably going to jinx the whole thing, but I think this is a good orientation, and I'm really hoping to see some animals here, and the depth is very good as well. So I may get dashed to pieces, but that's how you learn. You know, just because it doesn't pan out, you know, what you're thinking at the moment doesn't mean it's not valuable. It's extremely valuable. We learn from not getting what our expectations were and not seeing what our expectations were, and then we try to figure out why. So that's part of it. Regarding new species, in order to really understand these communities, we got to know the members. And the fact of the matter is there's a lot of types of corals and sponges and other animals which we simply don't know, and they're new. We're still finding them all the time, and we're trying to find out what the composition of the biota is in the deep sea. And once we do have a better understanding of what animals actually are down here and how they're distributed, then we can make additional hypotheses. How did they acquire their distributions? You know, what is larval transport like in the deep sea? You know, for example, how do these communities develop here? Well, we have some ideas about that, but we have to, these are sort of initial surveys, just documenting right now what is down here with respect to the animal life, counting, measuring, relating the animals to the substrate type, and all of these data will go into a master database that is in existence at a NOAA site. It's the NOAA Deep Sea Coral Research and Technology database. And all of the video will be annotated. All this data will be sent to this database to be incorporated in with essentially millions of other observations around the world. And as they continue to build this marvelous database, then scientists around the world are going to start to see patterns. Yeah. And they're going to start to understand more and more about what's going down here, or what's going on down here. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're not just trying to get pictures and pretty animals. One way one of the things we do is we zoom in on these animals, because in many cases, that's the way you identify them. They're really hard to identify animals from further away in the imagery. But if you zoom in on them, a lot of times you can identify them. And then if you can identify one and you can see they have sort of an appearance from a little further away, then you know that the rest of them are the species. Which is
it seems too, isn't it, that a lot of the animals have very subtle differences that you need to zoom in on?
That's correct. Very subtle differences. Like the primnoids are a perfect example of these. These are sort of slender, small, white coral colonies. They usually don't have much color. You can't go on that. Branching patterns, but also just the polyps themselves are very important to look at. So
in situ and seeing how the polyps express themselves in the environment, as opposed to, you know, after they've come up and been depressurized and exposed to air and all those other kinds of things. So
yeah. So this project has so many objectives, and it really is, and maybe it's not that obvious to the regular viewer, you know, why and how and what we're doing down here, but there's a lot of plans that went into this and a lot of objectives for this particular cruise before we set sail.
Yeah.
Back in mid-November.
And there's another huge aspect of this expedition that is why we're talking to you right now. You know, we are live from the middle of the Pacific. It is no small expense to send back high-definition video from a ship in the middle of the Pacific and then rebroadcast it out to the world. It is a significant investment. And also, we have a number of people that are very young in their scientific career, just starting out. I have Kainalu to my right here, who is, you know, just starting out in his exploration of science and considering future endeavors. And we have others on the ship as well. And we have teachers and educators. We talked to Afrodita's class earlier today in Los Angeles and shared the amazing stuff we're doing out here with them. We talked to students in Washington and Hawaii and California today, and we're sharing that. That's a big part of what we do because we want to inspire the next generation to work for this environment, to work in this environment, to care for this, to know what it's like, you know, to try it out too, to know what it takes. I mean, is like working on a research vessel, something in your future, you know, it's kind of hard to, you can't watch a video and decide that, right? Kind of, what do you think? I mean, it's your first time out, yeah?
Yeah, it's amazing. Feel very privileged and yeah, just really humbled to be a part of a small contribution of these bigger explorations. So it's really awesome to be a part of it all. And
not so small, kind of. We have all been watching how you work, which is absolutely amazing. I'm surprised if you get 2 or 3 hours sleep a night.
I'm surprised if any of us. No, but seriously, it's been really inspiring to work with everyone who's just really good at what they do and love and passionate of what they do. And so, yeah, it's for me being, like you said, still exploring my future and the opportunities. It's just great to be on board and be a part of it all.
Well, we're delighted to have you, and we're thankful to have you as well. You're down in the lab, you're up here, you're collecting data,
He's also doing his homework for school. On top of doing the full job, he's also doing his university studies.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I see the learning in our group here, the different teams, is like we have waves of learning.
Yeah.
No matter how old you are, how much experience you have, there's always these waves of learning. And Kainalo is really absorbing every type of job. You're working with data loggers, you're working with the scientists, you're working with the expedition leaders, the lead scientists. So this is a wonderful experience, and you are the perfect person because you just learn so quick, and it's just amazing.
It's really awesome. Nautilus and OAT is really awesome because, I'm able to just learn from different people and be a part of not just science, but communication, learn, about the work that they do. So it's really exciting.
You know, from an old timer, and there's sort of a shift, almost a paradigm shift that's going on, at least in this particular field of research, where I sort of remember decades ago, you know, when people would acquire data, it was so difficult to get down to the deep sea that people would sort of hold on to their data tight, you know, so they could get their publications and get everything like that done.
Right.
And nowadays with OET and some of these other ships that are actually broadcasting all the video everywhere, and all of the people that come aboard the ship, the internship program, and all of this, and what's going to happen to all the specimens. They're going to freely accessible repositories. What happens to the video? It's accessible upon request. What happens to the data extracted from the video? It immediately goes onto, you know, a freely accessible database. It's sharing. I mean, this it didn't used to be like this, and now it's not. And I'm afraid I was one of those people too. I have to tell you, 20 or 30 years ago or something. And now all I want to do is whatever we acquire, I want it to get out, and I want it to get out fast, because it's useless unless you can get people to look at your data and everything else. So that's just a marvelous thing I've seen over the years, this change and this sharing amongst the science community, as well as sharing amongst the public here with all of the would-be deep sea explorers, or the kids out here, the other people who want to do this.
And connecting, you know, there's only a few of us, as many of us as can fit on the ship as possible, you know, 50 or so people, but then we have an entire army of people participating from all over the world that are looking at things with us in real time and providing their input. And you know, deciding whether something should be collected or looks or we've already collected it. You know, it's just this huge collaborative approach. And it's a major paradigm shift in the way research had been conducted.
Yeah. It really is. It's a revolution in how research is conducted. I mean, I'm looking at the chat screen right here where we have scientists who are commenting all the time, and we actually call out for help on identification, or is this a good rock or something, like, because we have geologists and biologists. And then at the same time, you're looking at your public screen.
And we have people from all over the world watching us from Korea. We have Luna from Korea watching us, and she's
Aloha, Luna.
very excited about even our talks about careers and personal experiences. So, and the viewers, I don't know how many sets of eyes we have on the screen, but our viewers also help us identify species or look for something that we haven't paid attention to yet. So
the technology is just extraordinary. I mean, we're out in the middle of the Pacific, and yet we have instantaneous chat, instantaneous comments, and then you folks are seeing what we see with maybe a delay of 30 seconds max. I don't even know what it is.
10 milliseconds,
that's
20 milliseconds.
It's astonishing. I mean, I don't know. It's a revolution, and when you get more eyes on the research here and more eyes on the deep sea floor, all it can possibly do is help.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time that humans are setting eyes on this. Why should we keep it to ourselves? It's these places are part of the Earth. They're everybody's. They're part of everybody. So you know, there's no reason that it shouldn't be shared with the world.
Yeah, and the other part of it for me personally is once I started years ago with this, you know, a sister program of this that was also broadcasting the dive video through telepresence, I got to meet a lot of people that I hadn't met before and communicate with these people. And it's a regular thing. Specialists around the world just email them and just say, you know, there's people in Moscow, there's people down in Louisiana, Scott France, Les Watling, who's in both Maine and in Hawaii, geologists in California and in Europe as well. And it's just it just opens everything up. And it opens up the whole conversation here and it speeds up the understanding of the deep sea, accelerates it, you know,
by a lot,
by orders of magnitude.
Certainly, you know, like the animal guide that's online that anybody can access and really try to identify these animals the same way we are. The resources,
that'll get
the GIS resources.
I sure hope we get more of a public-friendly guide. I mean, right now it's more as a guide for researchers who are trying to figure out animals.
It's pretty good, though. I think the general person can get. It certainly isn't on the level of like Sibley's Guide to Birds or something like that with well organized. It's more of a scientific taxonomic organization, but I think it's still pretty good.
Well, you know, I use this thing called iBird Pro. I also use the Audubon and Cornell University because I like birds too in my terrestrial life. And I like some of these things because you can sit there and filter and just say, okay, I want birds only from Washington. I'm trying to figure this out. And I want birds that are small, birds that are near, you know, beach walkers or something like that. And you can scroll down and get rid of all the other things and then get a subset of that database. And that's really the dream for this photo guide is that, okay, it's a sea star, okay, put that in, and it's got spines that are so long, and it's this color. And then you'll get 4, 5, 6 possibilities, and you don't have to go through all of this.
Well, it'll probably, you know, pretty soon, years to come, as the video's going, they're going to have a little kind of semi-artificial intelligence thing that's going to limit the scope of the guide to what you're kind of looking at already, and it's going to provide that to you, and you can narrow it down. I mean, we already have things like that, so yeah, it's. I mean, the technology on this vessel already is like off the charts. It's we've got literally supercomputer processing on board. I don't know how many petabytes of storage we have on this vessel for all the data that are coming in from the sensors and the mapping arrays and the video and the HIPAC, all these different sources, and it's a phenomenal amount of information.
One other thing I forgot to mention is all the interactions that are going on in the room behind us through this cruise, where there's specialists on board the ship that actually are interacting with school classes and other groups and so forth, and bringing this whole experience to them and asking their or answering their questions and talking about this. It's just this development of all this stuff, in the last decade is extraordinary.
Yeah.
The viewers are asking, why is Argus view black and white?
It's marine snow.
We have a different camera set up with it right now. We had to switch.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Despite all the technology, the people still have to eat occasionally, so we're experiencing a little...
Is it dinner?
Yeah, it's dinner time. I know. A little relief shift going on for the pilots and eventually us. So, and we have chefs on board this vessel. We have 2 chefs. Yeah. We have a kitchen crew, and they provide amazing food for us while we're out here. And 3 meals a day. It's hard to not gain weight. It's
also, it's a very international vessel. We have a lot of people from a variety of countries, which is
Russia and Ukraine and Honduras and from all over the world, U.S., Canada.
Yeah, and one of our missions is to really share everything that we're learning live on different social media platforms. Our nautiluslive.org webpage, Twitter, Instagram, and of course our YouTube channel that live streams every dive that we carry out.
Speaking of Instagram, Kanalu was over here, was blowing up the gram earlier today. He had a gram takeover. Yeah. How did that go, Kanalu? What did you think?
It's still going.
Still going. There we go.
But yeah, check it out. It just, I guess, talks about showing some pictures and stuff of a daily life of a day logger.
Just, wait, where do you want something up there? It's different,
yeah, different things you'll see on board.
That's just what the salvo is going to bring up now. I can switch it for you.
And we even
there you go.
Nice.
Now you're happier.
Yes. We even have interactions going on in Olelo, Hawaii, the Hawaiian language, and we're communicating with immersion schools in Hawaii. That's the first time ever that's happened from this kind of platform. We have a fluent speaker in Hawaiian, Kalamaehu, who's been doing some of these classes and, assisting with some of the cultural protocols and talking about Hawaiian cosmology and the importance of this place culturally to Native Hawaiians, the people of this place. And we have many people on shore who participate in that, a cultural working group that's involved with Papahanaumokuakea, many Hawaiian language experts from universities and community colleges around Hawaii who participated in giving a Hawaiian name to this expedition, and also including many Hawaiian terms in our mission here. So it's multidisciplinary on so many different levels. And I mean, just the great thing about it is the incredible reciprocal respect everybody has for everything else. I think everybody appreciates these different aspects and just wants to learn. That's one of the coolest things for me about being on this expedition, is just being out with so many people that have a passion for just learning and learning new things. Like, I walked up earlier and out on the table, out on the deck. Chris is getting a tutorial from one of our expert videographers on board about some tips about how to photograph birds, you know, and things like that are going on all over the ship the entire time. So it's, you know, it's just such a dynamic environment.
All right, so let's learn something from Adelita. Do we have some questions?
Yeah, Catherine from Arizona wants to know, what's your favorite sponge?
My favorite sponge?
Yeah, I guess she wants to know everybody's favorite sponge.
Okay, let me think. Oh boy.
You have many favorites.
Well, you know, the issue here is which is my favorite sponge microscopically, what type of spicules I really like to look at, and which is my favorite sponge, sort of their colonial appearance.
And what are spicules again?
Spicules are the microscopic parts of sponges that are made of silica, and specifically we're seeing almost exclusively glass sponges, so these spicules are made of almost exclusively of silica or glass particles, if you will. You think about that, that's pretty remarkable that you've got an animal down here that actually can secrete and produce glass and creates glass skeletal elements. So, okay, go to another question, and I'm going to think about that.
Well, can I say my favorite one?
Yeah, well, what's your favorite one?
You can say your favorite one, yeah.
I think my favorite one is the Caulophecus.
Ah, yes.
Because it's so tall, and I don't think I can bring it into my classroom.
No, you couldn't. I don't think you can get it in your car.
Because I don't have an ocean in there.
You can't get it in your car
But it's just amazing when you look at the indentations of that sponge. It has so many little rooms for different kinds of crabs and critters to live in it. It's really a habitat for organism. It could be a whole ecosystem for tiny little organisms. And I don't even know what's supporting such sponges in terms of microbiology, microbiological ecosystems in there too. But yeah, that's my favorite sponge. How about Andy? What's your favorite sponge?
I have to go with those large Caulophecus as well. I mean, I'm just blown away that you have this, you know, several foot long stalk attached to this incredibly bulbous head that's like, you know, 3.5 feet across, and it just sits there in the water column, and that these organisms have adapted to that strategy. I mean, actually a question just came to mind when I was thinking about that. I was like, why is that bulbous head, why is it sitting up in the water column? It's certainly the stem can't support that. Is there some kind of flotation going on inside the head of that?
It probably isn't that heavy in water.
Yeah?
Yeah, it probably is. So it's, yeah, I would imagine it's the stem is probably keeping the head from blowing away when you've got strong current.
Oh.
But I think I've got my favorite sponge that'll challenge yours. It's also a stalk sponge.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Advena magnifica, which is the googly-eyed ET sponge.
Oh, the ET species.
Oh, that's really cute too.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be spelled here by Emil, our expedition leader, and I'm going to go get something to eat.
That's ET, Advena magnifica.
Advena magnifica.
Does that not look like ET?
Yeah, it looks magnificent.
Yes, thank you. And I think that's why the researchers who recently described it and gave a name to it called it that.
Advena magnifica.
Magnifica. I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah. There was a question earlier in the dive. Why is it that the seamount, not all of the seamounts have a flat top?
It's because they never reach the surface. So they're volcanoes, essentially. All of these seamounts were volcanoes at one point. They were erupting from the abyssal seafloor. The abyssal seafloor is 5,000 meters down. And in some cases, the eruptions produced so much lava that the volcano actually broke the surface and became an island at one point. and then it finally stopped. And then you start getting processes like reef growth and erosion that tends to level off or plane off the top of the cone of the volcano. And then you wind up with these flat top seamounts eventually that are called guyots. But these other ones never reach the surface. So they maintain roughly that conical shape, even though there is a certain amount of erosion that occurs underwater over millions of years. They still look conical and they don't have that flat top. It's one way we can tell, you know, a little bit about the history of a seamount by mapping it and seeing just what does the summit look like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's why.
Very interesting. And Aaron, in navigation, do you have a favorite sponge or a coral?
I don't. I like the yellow stalked one, I guess. I think that's pretty cool. The yellow just shows up so brightly.
I think that's a bolosoma with the yellow stalk.
Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
Great. And our expedition leader, Emil Petruncio, has joined us.
Hi, Aphrodina. Yep, just filling in for the dinner.
Yeah, thank you. It's really nice to have you on this watch.
Thanks.
Too. Do you have a favorite sponge or coral?
Well, you know, what immediately comes to mind is the ones we saw along the rim of the canyon, rim of the volcanic crater on the summit of Tamana. They were Calyptophora, something close to that.
Calyptophora, yeah. Angularis.
Angularis. They were big, they were large, and but a good number of them situated along the rim and enjoying that current flow. They're another one that's like a candelabra.
Oh, yes. So, what do you particularly like about them?
It's amazing how they spread it. They've got the branches that come out horizontally, and then from them are vertical branches, and the older ones stop growing, seemingly to allow the younger ones to catch up. So you get this nice level, horizontally, nicely shaped candelabra, or like a fluke of a whale's tail.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice design.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Do you guys see the little surprise there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you were hiding.
That looks like a Tim Burton creation.
It's so great.
It's super cute.
Hey, buddy.
Nightmare before
Is that a
Christmas.
rake? A rake attached to a tennis ball?
It looks like it could be a gardening rake tool. Nice telltale.
And what is the tool, Dan?
It's a telltale, so we can see which way the current's blowing.
Obvious.
Right now, it's obviously
upward.
Yeah, appears to be upward.
It's amazing. I love it.
So there's different media on there. There's some poly pigtails and hemp hands.
Very nice. Very nice.
Is that its name?
Poly pigtails.
It was. So last time it was dubbed, it had a different name because it didn't have the typical yellow smiley face that you see.
One of our viewers is asking,
so it needs a new name.
Did Mark approve that before lunch?
What's that?
Did Mark approve this?
You sneak it on.
It was some sneaky, underhanded, unapproved.
What's that guy's Latin name?
It needs a new name. Yeah. It's doesn't have a name at the moment. So it's actually a ROV tool that was used as you can see it has 3 legs there. It was a trident. A rake. It was used to rake some clams into a scoop, I believe. It's been hanging around in the ROV shop for...
If it's a trident, it could be a pigtail Poseidon.
Oh. So definitely making me smile. That's great. I think it'll have many names by the end of the night.
In case that doesn't work, there's... I don't know if those will work. There's some on the craft as well.
These are our flow meters.
Yeah.
That's like
Poor man's.
That's like Herb's going to a party, all decorated.
Oh, thank you.
I would have expected at this descent rate more deflection on the... sporting hose clamp choker there.
My favorite is someone on here is asking if Mark approved the that before launch.
Yeah, we got that question. Yep. It was decided that it was snuck on at the last moment.
If Mark spotted it, he didn't say anything.
He just shook his head in disgust.
He probably did. Yeah.
And walked away.
Didn't interfere with the launch.
I wonder if somebody's going to try to eat it. Squid might attack it.
Yeah, it could be a predation event.
Yeah, we could get a predation event.
So Andrea, how did the rocks look from Euphemia?
Pretty good.
Sovereign.
Yeah, some of them are really encrusted, but they're big enough that I have hope that there's a crystalline core.
Why do they not turn on that Argus altimeter?
I don't know. Very little. It's
Does it interfere somehow, or? No, no ground fault on it. What's that? No. Well, we often find it turned off, which is
Curious.
Did anyone see the shark today?
I did not. Did you?
Today.
No, just asking.
Oh.
Was it a launch or recovery shark or just a general shark?
Just a jet. Well, we've been seeing a white tip shark.
Yeah.
Probably different ones, but maybe over the past few dives, but nothing today, I think.
Yeah, we saw one during the extravaganza yesterday.
Yep.
Pretty close. It was pretty cool. I don't even know if I was outside today. What is this day? What day is that?
Monday.
Oh my gosh.
Cyber Monday.
Oh yeah, Cyber Monday.
It's officially the last full week of this expedition too.
Oh yes. It just flew by.
Howdy.
This one's pretty shallow, right?
Not terribly. We'll go 1990 meters to begin. 1862 to end. Not much of a depth change, just kind of going along a ridge.
It's weird to go to the shallow end first. What? I love it. I know you must have made it. It was you, right? I love it. It makes me feel like my hair is acceptable.
We're going to a deeper end. It looks like we would be going deeper with the dive progression because we're going away from the main summit, but we are going towards a local high in the bathymetry. So, it'll be a mild climb.
Yeah, we haven't done this. I'm wondering what we're gonna get. What is its orientation to the Hawaiian Ridge? Oh, we don't have the bigger map. Yes, we do.
Emma, we have a question of what's the estimated time of arrival to the seafloor? How long does it take to get?
I think we've got about 15 minutes.
11 minutes and 7 seconds.
Thank you.
Let's get this out of you.
She was our cheerleader.
Yeah, so we're oriented almost parallel to the
Yeah.
Hawaiian Ridge. Should be interesting.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to be. And I always wonder how much those bigger seamounts, like I wonder how much the tide is affected by Gardner.
Right,
So
well,
massive.
I mean, that whole ridge, yeah, the whole ridge is productive, but there are hot spots, and I forget where they are.
I remember when I learned in class that the ice caps have their own gravitational pull on the ocean, and it blew my mind.
We are now getting to the point, NASA has some models that can show how sea level will change regionally as a result of ice melt. And
Maryland's not going to do so well, huh?
So the melt from Greenland will affect Maryland less than the melt from Antarctica, if I have that right, because there's less gravitational pull of Greenland for that ice melt. It'll go away.
Yeah.
The spin of the Earth will help move that elsewhere, but we will feel effects
and you're
of
also
Antarctica.
experiencing isostatic adjustment in Maryland from the continental deglaciation.
Right, so about 7 inches a century, plus the absolute sea level rise. So we've seen about 14 inches over the past century.
It's a lot.
Yeah, so it's the Chesapeake Bay is filled to the brim now, and it doesn't take much to spill over. Some just decent sailing weather, some winds from the south for half a day, and start to get an extra foot on top of high tide. That can cause some low-level flooding of low-level roads.
Yeah, most people don't know that Long Island is actually a moraine. The continental ice got all the way down there, you know.
Pile of rubble.
Pile of rubble.
Expensive pile of rubble.
Expensive pile of rubble.
So yeah, it's complicated because you'd get the internal wave energy coming from the ridge, but you'll also have local wave generation maybe over this smaller ridge. So
and this is the one that looks most parallel to anything we've seen to the ridge itself, and longest. So it will be an interesting experiment. Good thing we have our current indicator on there.
Yeah, we might see that poly hair waving in the waving in the wind,
cheering us on. Go team, go!
So it looks like this is an interesting view of that ridge. Looks like it bifurcates there.
Yeah, and it almost looks, I know it's farther away, but a little bit flat.
Yeah.
That top.
All right. I bid you a good rest of the watch. Andy is back. Dinner time.
We have a few viewers asking what is coming up next for the ship now that this expedition is on its last week. We'll finish up here. We are expecting some weather at the end of the week, so we will be diving this dive and I believe one more dive for this expedition, and then we will have to transit south and then back towards the main islands just so we can avoid some of the weather. But our next expedition you can find on Nautilus Live under expeditions. We'll be heading out for 12 days to the Chautauqua Seamounts, which is a seamount chain that has not been surveyed by ROVs before. So we're excited to go be the first eyes on this location. And that will start on next Wednesday.
Or the Wednesday after next.
Yeah, not 2 days, the next Wednesday.
Today's Tuesday or is it Wednesday?
What day
is today?
Does it really matter?
It's Monday.
It is Monday. Tend to lose track of the day, time, lose track of everything.
What do you mean? It's Friday.
It might be.
It is. It's Friday at 8 in the morning, isn't it?
Aloha Friday.
Oh, do I have that wrong? Oh.
It might be off by a couple days, but heck, rounding error.
It all feels the same.
Uh-huh.
So do we get weekends off?
No. What?
Never.
What are those?
We don't get weekends off?
Nope.
I needed to read the fine print when I came out here.
You didn't read that?
No.
Oh, man.
Do I want weekends off? No. There is a cool map. Look at that.
Yeah.
Looks like an underwater golf course.